Welcome back, everybody. The functionality and accessibility of the National Register for Sex Offenders has once again come under the spotlight after Parliament invited the public to have its say on the amendment of the Criminal Law and the Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act of 2007. The Act will further regulate the inclusion of particulars of persons in the National Register for Sex Offenders and make provision for certain particulars of persons who have been convicted of sexual offences to be made publicly available. To date, more than 35,000 names have been included in the NRSO, with 30,270 confirmed and 4,773 not yet added. To talk more about the National Register for Sex Offenders, we are now joined by Ntombizodwa Matjila, the Registrar of the National Sex Offenders Register at the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. A very good morning to you, Ntombizodwa. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Morning, Simpiwe, and thanks for having me, and morning to the viewers as well.
The register became effective back in 2009 as part of curbing the prevalence of sexual offences in South Africa, and it contains a record of names of those found guilty of sexual offences against children and persons who are mentally disabled in South Africa. So how much do South Africans know of its existence, and just how effective is it in the fight against gender-based violence?
It is our endeavor to notify the public as much as we can. We have been running out awareness and information sessions and campaigns through different media houses, and we're still continuing to teach and educate the public about its existence and its functionalities. And as you very well have stated, it has been in operation since 2009.
Well, currently, the register is not available to the public, but only those entitled to apply for a clearance certificate will have access to the information contained in this register. So what type of information does it contain?
It contains the details of convicted sex offenders. It contains a name of a person. It contains the ID document where it is provided. It contains the type of offense that particular person has been convicted of. It contains the court that made that conviction, the date of conviction, the date of sentence, as well as the age of the victim, whether or not the victim was a child or a person with mental disabilities. And I need to correct again the fact that the register is available, however, in a prescribed manner, meaning that each person that wants to view whether or not the details of a person are listed in the register, you have to apply. And then we have, at this stage, 5 categories of persons that are allowed to apply. Those are the employers, the employees, the licensing authorities, the relevant authorities, as well as anyone who knows that their name is listed in the register. They can apply, and then we can confirm in writing by issuing a certificate confirming whether or not the details of that particular person are in the register. A classic example is when you have employed a nanny in your home or in your house to look after your children, or a gardener or a taxi driver that takes your kids to school. You can apply and to verify whether or not their details are listed in the register.
Why was it closed to the public in the first place? Because you've made typical great examples of, a gardener, a helper, or a taxi driver taking my kids to school. Because I need to know who I'm dealing with. Why was it closed to the public?
It was never closed. I think that is the limitation of information out there, which is why we actually sought out to come and clarify the position that it has never been closed. It has always been the case since the implementation of the Act that these are the categories of persons that can apply to view whether or not the person's details are listed in the register or not.
Ntombizodwa, currently the conviction rates for sexual offences are very, very low. In fact, the South African Law Commission research paper found that only 1 in 10 rape cases involving a minor resulted in a conviction. So how effective will this be in terms of ensuring successful convictions for sexual offences?
You see, the ensuring of whether or not we have a successful conviction, it goes further down to how a case was investigated, then it goes to being prosecuted, and then it goes to being tried in court. Whenever that happens and then it is tried successfully, this is where we can very well obtain a successful conviction. But without a conviction very well stated, we cannot in any way have that person listed in the register. So it is very essential that whatever happens on the ground, whatever happens with the investigation of such case, whatever happens with how it is prosecuted, it is very much key to us at the end of the day securing a conviction and securing that that person is listed in the register.
Mm-hmm. And you have confirmed that to date more than 35,000 names have been included in this register, with about 30,270 confirmed and I understand 4,773 not yet added. But in the process of being added, doesn't this also show that the register is not updated?
The register is updated daily. So that 4,000 names is the one that shows you that it's all the potential convictions that are currently on the court roll or that are currently still being, in the process of being finalized. So the register in itself, whenever a conviction is made at court, immediately we are linked to a system that is called an integrated case management system on the National Register for Sex Offenders. At the minute when a conviction is made, that or those details get captured into a system which I've just alluded to currently. And then once that is finalized and a conviction is secured, you will have a court clerk at court level update that particular information and send that information through to me. So it's an immediate action that actually occurs. When that happens, when that is sent through to me, I can immediately see that, which is why I'm able to see that there is 4,000, over 4,000 cases that are currently or potential convictions that we're still waiting for.
Well, Parliament has now invited the public to have their say on the amendment of the Criminal Law Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act of 2007 to further regulate the inclusion of particulars of persons in the National Register for Sex Offenders. So what particulars are you hoping will be included and should not be made public?
You see, the register in its current form actually take into account the details of those convicted offenders who have violated or sexually violated children and persons with mental disabilities only. But now what actually happens, we have expanded the scope to include all convicted sex offenders, irrespective of who they have violated, and then extend, the ambit of vulnerability, who then becomes vulnerable. We're no longer focusing on children and persons with mental disabilities only. And then again, we have extended the timeframes upon which a person can remain in the register before which they can qualify to have their details removed if they do qualify.
Okay, the register started processing applications for certificates in August last year, 2019, I beg your pardon, and more than 18,500 applications for certificates were processed. So who can apply for certificates in respect of the particulars from the register?
It's the employers, the employees, the licensing authorities, the relevant authorities, as well as the person who currently appears. By employers, I mean every person that has employed anybody, where children are congregate or where children actually are, or persons with mental disabilities, as well as persons who seek to apply for adoption, foster care, kinship, caregiving, all those processes therewith. They are welcome to apply. However, one of the amendments that we have already filtered into the bill is to extend again the ambit or the scope of those categories of persons that can apply for a certificate. We have no longer confined it to those 5 categories of persons that I've just mentioned.
Okay.
We have extended, the scope to include any other person who would want to view whether or not the person that or the person of interest is in the register. that is in the current bill.
Okay. Okay. And the relevant employers, as it were, are required to vet existing employees and potential employees against the register,
Yes.
in order to determine whether they are suitable to work with children or persons who are mentally disabled or not. I mean, how accessible is the register, and what are the processes that one must follow in order to access it?
The register is accessible by way of application, like we have published the processes on how you can access the register on our website. And we have a form that is called a Form 7, which on top is written an application for a certificate in respect of particulars. For example, if you're applying in your own right, and when you're applying on behalf of another person, this is where an employer is going to be applying on behalf of an employee, or when you're applying on your own behalf. So a person who seeks to apply, they will then fill in those forms, attach a set of original fingerprints, as well as a copy of a certified ID, and send those documents through to us by registered post or courier. Then we can process that particular application within 10 days and issue out a certificate.
And now, lobby group Action Society has stated that although numerous requests for the register clearance certificates were logged, the register was not able to aid employers with accurate information, and consequently, there is no control whatsoever over whether teachers or caretakers in our children's classrooms are convicted sex offenders or not to mention the status of adoptive or even foster parents. So it's very unclear at this point what the current status of updating the details of convicted sex offenders to the register is. So how do you respond to that concern?
What Action Society came out to say, it's irresponsible and untrue. And which is why, as a department, we sought to come and set the record straight. When they were saying the state of functionality of the register is non-functional, is non-existent, that is very much incorrect and irresponsible, because as the department, we implore people who are appointing others to come and watch over their kids, those who are in the process of adoption, to apply, because the reason why people never access the register is not because it is not accessible. And the reason why they did not want to find out or seek to find out on how we can best access the register, it does not mean that the register is not available or it is not updated, which is why we have endeavored to come and, quell those irresponsible connotations that were made into saying that the register is not available, neither is it updated, because the register was, as you have correctly stated when we started, implemented in 2009, and it has been updated daily. So obviously, like you have said, that we have started issuing the certificate in 2019. That is correct, because all through those years, we have been updating the system so that we can be able to issue the certificate within the amount of time that we have stipulated, within 10 days. So that, and then establishing capacity as well within the department to deal with those applications, should we be open to deal with such.
Okay. And could the proposed public-private partnership for the management of the register by means of a partnership with government be what is needed to transform the management of this register?
Not necessarily, because the register in its current form is held in a confidential manner, meaning that you cannot disclose what the registrar has acquired in the exercise of functions and duties. And therefore, as a result, the public-private partnership that Ms. van der Walt was referring to, I actually could not understand what she actually meant. Because in its current form, the information that is in the register is held in a confidential manner.
Okay. Okay. Great chatting to you, Ntombi. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
That was Ntombizodwa Matjila, the Registrar of the National Sex Offenders Register at the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, talking to us about the effectiveness of the National Register for Sex Offenders as Parliament invites the public to submit written comments for the amendment of the Criminal Law, Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act of 2007. This is Morning Live. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly.